After a wild season like none other, the Alabama Crimson Tide have beaten Ohio State and won the 2023-21 College Football Playoff National Championship. And really from start to finish, this was an outstanding performance by Alabama. They hardly made a single mistake throughout the game. Final score was 52-24. Crimson Tide got the win over the Buckeyes in a matchup that was really anticipated, but Alabama really dominated it from start to finish. And this game looked like it was going to be a close one at the start. As of course you can see, after the first quarter, it was 7-7. We saw a tie game after the first quarter, but in the second quarter, Alabama really started to pull away. Our halftime score is 35-17, so Alabama was really starting to pull away before the half there. A couple of late scores in the first half really helped lead to that. But overall, I mean, Alabama played outstanding throughout this entire thing. I mean, huge credit to them, but also huge credit to Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State, huge credit to them for a great season. I mean, considering all these circumstances that went into this game, especially went into the season. I mean, huge credit to both of these teams for sure for making it this far, and Ohio State as well. I mean, for Ohio State, they played their guts out in this game, and they played their guts out against Clemson in the semifinal game as well. So for Ohio State, they definitely deserved, in my opinion, to be in this position in the championship game, even though I'm sure it didn't go as they had hoped for sure. But I mean, Alabama, huge credit to Alabama too. This team played outstanding throughout this entire thing. I mean, Mac Jones had the game of his career. He played outstanding. We're going to get into the stats in just a second here, but as you can see by the box score, we saw Alabama lead at 35-17 at the half. They scored 10 in the third quarter. In the fourth quarter, we started to see things slow down a bit. Ohio State, it looked like they were going to score again late in the game, but it ended up not happening, so it ends up looking like a blowout. But I mean, if you look at just the first half, this game was actually pretty close throughout this entire first half. But Alabama, that second quarter was huge for the Crimson Tide. This team capitalized a ton in the second quarter. But here are your game stats for this one. Mac Jones put up 464 yards in this game, 5 touchdowns. He had an outstanding game. I mean, he played from start to finish. I mean, he just played exceptional. He put up 36 for 45 as well, so he was super accurate tonight. All around great performance out of him. Najee Harris was the top running back for the Crimson Tide, putting up 22 attempts, 79 yards, 2 touchdowns. Brian Robinson also gets on the board with 10 attempts and 69 yards. And then Devontae Smith, of course, huge credit to him as well for winning the Heisman, and he played outstanding in that first half. I mean, it looked like, he was on pace at 400 yards if he would have played in the second half like he did in the first. But of course, he had that injury, which took him out of the game. He did put up 12 receptions, 215 yards, 3 touchdowns. And of course, John Mechie, can't forget about him. He put up 8 receptions for 81 yards for the Crimson Tide. But as for Ohio State here, Justin Fields, he did not have a terrible game. I mean, he didn't play as well as he did in the Clemson game, of course. But I mean, this is a much different team than Clemson is. And Justin Fields still put up 17 for 33, 200 yards, 1 touchdown. And he also put up the most rushing yards on the team, 6 attempts for 67 yards. And we're going to get into the key points in just a second. But really, this team, without Trey Sermon, this team really had a tough time tonight. I think in their game plan, they were probably planning to rush Trey Sermon quite a bit. And the reason why Ohio State struggled quite a bit is because, Master Teague is a great running back too, but he's nothing like Trey Sermon right now. Trey Sermon was playing as good as any running back in the entire nation coming into this game. And if you looked at Trey Sermon, especially down the stretch, he improved so much as the season went on for Ohio State, and this was a very tough blow for Ohio State to lose Trey Sermon at the beginning of this one. This game could have been a lot different if we saw Trey Sermon play in this game. But Master Teague was the top running back, 15 attempts, 65 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not a bad day out of him. And as for the receiving core, they had Chris Olave, 8 receptions for 70 yards. And then Garrett Wilson, 3 receptions, 50 yards, and a touchdown. So all around, receiving core with Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson both performed pretty well here today. And of course, Chris Olave is going to be going to the NFL. There is so much NFL talent in this game too. If you look at how much NFL talent is in this game, or was in this game here today, Mac Jones, he's going to be a big player. Justin Fields is as well. Najee Harris is going to be going. Devontae Smith is going to be going. Chris Olave is going to be a great player. Trey Sermon, all of these players are outstanding. We're going to see a lot of these players that played in this game here today in the NFL for sure, which is what we're going over next. Alabama played a flawless game. There's no doubt about that. Alabama played as good as I've ever seen any team play this entire season for sure. And really, Alabama played pretty much lights out here today. Ohio State definitely, they gave it their all, but it was tough to beat Alabama here tonight. Like, this Alabama team was not going to be beat. But Ohio State not having Trey Sermon, once again, that had a huge impact on this game in my opinion. If Trey Sermon was on the Ohio State side, I think we could have seen Ohio State definitely score at least 1 to 2 more touchdowns. Like, he was playing once again outstanding down the stretch. Trey Sermon was having a great season especially in the second half of the year. So Trey Sermon, I mean, it's a tough blow for Ohio State not to have him, but Jones and Smith were outstanding tonight. Mac Jones, Devontae Smith, huge credit to both of them. Mac Jones especially, I mean, he was lights out. Same thing with Devontae Smith, and it's really a tough circumstance that Devontae Smith was injured as well in the second half, because it would have been fun to watch him, especially in the second half. But all the NFL talent here, once again, like, you got several players across the board that are going to be in the NFL for sure. And a lot of NFL players are going, or a lot of these players are going to be NFL players that are going to have huge impacts in the future for sure. But Nick Saban, congrats to him. He wins number 7, 7th national championship for him. And that's outstanding. I mean, 7 national championships, that's crazy. That's almost a decade's worth of national championships that Nick Saban has got. So it's pretty outstanding what Nick Saban has done, especially over the course of his career, and especially with Alabama over the past decade especially, which, I mean, this Alabama team is a dynasty right now. Like, this team is going to be hard to beat over the next couple of years or so, as long as Nick Saban is coaching. So expect Alabama to continue to be dominant. I mean, this team is losing a lot of talent. Alabama is going into next season, especially losing, I mean, you're losing Smith, Harris, you're losing Mac Jones, all of them. But I definitely think, I mean, Alabama, we've seen them continue to have talent back and forth over and over again. So I think Alabama will be just fine. But once again, Ohio State deserves huge credit here in this game. I mean, even though it was kind of a blowout game towards Alabama, I think Ohio State definitely deserved this position, even though it's kind of a tough result. Ohio State, though, did deserve huge credit. I mean, huge credit to both these teams for making it to this point. I mean, I understand how difficult of a season it was. Actually, I don't understand how difficult of a season it was. I mean, I'm sure this was a very brutal season for both these teams, and so huge credit to Alabama, huge credit to Ohio State in the end. But once again, here's your box score, 52-24 is your final score. Alabama got the win. Let me know your thoughts and comments below on this game. It was a fun one to finish off the season. I mean, this was a crazy season like none other. I appreciate you guys all sticking around with me through it. It was a fun one for sure. But then again, stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you guys all later.